Wonderful morning. Let me just minimize that so I can see it. A very wonderful morning. I was just having a shower and I was standing and thinking that there's like, have you noticed that there's like this weird movement in non-duality at the moment where feelings are not okay, where whatever you feel, it's not okay that you feel it because it's not real. Whenever you get angry or you get anxious or you feel resentment or you feel joy or anything, no, it's more the negative feelings, then it's like, yeah, I feel sad, but it's not real, so it doesn't really matter. There's this spiritual bypassing happening, which has kind of turned into this weird thing where all of a sudden we're not allowed to talk about how we perceive anymore or how we feel anymore. And if somebody's confused, then they can't say, I don't understand this. This confuses me so much. And then they're being met with, well, you can't be confused because there's no you. And it's so bizarre to observe. It's so bizarre to observe because it's like it's misunderstood. It's like non-duality is misunderstood. It's like there's no acknowledgement of the biological being. So let me just, break it down what I talk about, because it's like when we talk about strawberries and dogs, it's two different things. It's two different things. And saying that what the biological being is experiencing is not real. It's true that a strawberry is not a dog, but if we talk about strawberries, we talk about strawberries. You can't all of a sudden make it into being a dog. So let's saying that the biological being in this analogy is like the strawberry, and the void or the non-duality or the beingness is the dog. So if somebody is sitting and saying strawberries smell nice, in the dog analogy, they can't say, well, the strawberry is not the thing. It's not what we talk about. It's not real. It's only dogs that are real. I don't know if you understand what I mean with this, but it's like two different things are mixed up into one conversation. And that's why I make these videos and why I keep talking about this, because I want to clarify what is going on. I think for a lot of people, it's just confusing being told that I'm so confused. I don't know what to feel about this. And then being told, well, there is no you. It doesn't help. That's not helpful at all. So I want to kind of like clear this up and kind of like talk about this in this video. First of all, feelings are not a dirty word. Whatever you feel, it's completely fine. It's completely fine. Where the misunderstanding is happening, it's because that you identify with your biology. So there is kind of like the void or the beingness or the non-duality. In that void, it's everything is present. It's a lot of people misunderstand when they talk about non-duality and they say it's no thingness. It is, but in that nothingness, you have everything. So everything is present in that, because if you have, there's never nothing. There can't be nothing. No thingness is when there's not a specific thing, but everything is present, which means that it's everything that is there at the same time. Because if you say that it's that there's for example, in meditation and in Buddhism, you're often told, and I often say that, to just sit, don't think of anything, and that is actually impossible, because you can never not think. You can never not do. Even when you're not doing anything, you're doing something, because you're doing nothing. And that's the thing with the void or with non-duality, that in that void, everything is present. Because if I say it's only blue pens that are present in the nothingness, then all the red ones are not there, and then we're back to duality. So everything needs to be in the void, and everything is in the void at the same time. Everything is happening at the same time. There's nothing that is not present or not there. And in that beingness, everything in you is present. Now, the thing where it starts to become complicated when we talk about this is that there's no individual you. There's no individual self. There is being. And that's where it kind of like gets confused, because you believe you to exist because of the way that your sensory perception is. So in this biological being that is sitting right here, I identify it as an I. So I'm going to use the word I now. In this biological being, I perceive that I have arms and I have legs, I have tummy, I have my face, I can smell, I can see, I can feel, I can hear, I can touch, and I can think. Those are my senses. All that sensory perception is collected by the brain, and then a meaning is created by it. That's why I can put my hand out and grab this pen and say, this is a pen. I only know this is a pen because my brain is comparing with the past. So because I have experienced the pen before, I know what it is. I know it's a blue pen. It's writing in blue. I know what blue is. I only know that because my brain is comparison with my past, with previous experiences. And that is telling me that this is a blue pen. I know exactly how it feels when I write it because I tried it before. I know exactly how blue looks because I have seen it before. Now, that is what is happening in the biological being. When all that information is collected by my brain, because it's collecting it and comparing it with what was in the past, I get a sense of a someone, and that is where the perception of a consciousness is happening, and where the perception of I is happening. So the me has an illusion about being me and being in this body. So far, so good. So far, all non-duality teachers are on the same page. Where it starts to get a bit weird is when some people then say it's not real, because it is real. This is very real. I dare you to drink a glass of bleach. It is real. I dare you not to eat for 2 weeks. It is real. The biological sensation that you will feel with not eating or drinking bleach or running naked around in the street, the sensation you will feel about death approaching, about being embarrassed if you run around naked in the street, all that is real because it's chemical. It is actually happening. What is not real is the you. So the you thinking that you get embarrassed when you run naked in the street, or that you die if you drink a glass of bleach, that is the illusion. It's the illusion of you that is not real. It's not the biological being that is not real, because this is here in the biological being. So when we talk, now we talk in the how would I say, in the box of strawberries that I talked about before. That's what we talk about now. Because I know if we go into the other box where we talk non-duality, there is a dissolvement of subject-object. Not what I'm talking about. Stay in this box right here. What I want to talk about is how you manage in that box, in your biological being, when you have feelings, when feelings arise in you, and when a feeling is influencing you, and so in such a manner, so you start to think that it's you that is having this feeling, because that is not the case. It's not you feeling embarrassed when you run naked in the street, but a feeling of embarrassment is arising. There's no you it can arise to. Or if somebody says something to you and you get angry, a feeling of anger is arising. It's not you being angry. There's a great sutta where which is really funny. It's a bit like reading the sutta is very much like how I see handsome Tony Parson, the way that he talks in his videos, where somebody says, "But I feel so and so," and he goes like, "No, you don't feel that. A feeling is arising." And there's a great sutta where the Buddha, he does the same, where he sits and somebody keeps asking, "But what about when when I feel happy. No, it's not what I'm saying. You don't feel happy. Happiness is arising. And it's very much about becoming clear that there's a non-identifying, which is real. As soon as you identify with it and saying, I am happy, I am sorry, I am sad, I am dying, then you identify with the physical being, which you can't, because you're not there. There's not a you there. There's not an individual self there. There is the physical being, and there is emotion arising, and there is sickness and aging and death is happening. It's not happening to you. I had a really, really good question that I'm going to make an individual video about, asking about pain, asking about how to deal with the pain, and how that person had experienced pain coming into the body. And I'm going to make an individual video about that because the question was so good. So what I see, and why I'm sitting and talking here on this beautiful Saturday morning, is that it's kind of like there's happening this spiritual one-uppingness in the non-duality talks, where it's like, no, I'm more knowledgeable about non-duality than you are, and that is, it's really, really bizarre. It reminds me of the joke with the monk sitting and meditating about the ego, about there's no individual self, sitting and meditating about that, and then he goes like, "Oh, I'm so enlightened." I mean, it's so funny because you are not anything. Enlightenment might happen. Enlightenment is happening. Awareness is happening. It's not you. You are not anything because there is no you. So there's no individual you to be anything. And that also puts you in a position when you realize this, that anybody else can have whatever opinion about you, and it's completely fine. Other people can think you're ridiculous and don't like you, and you can set them free to think that you are ridiculous and don't like you. You don't have the need to change that, because there's no individual you. There's only that not individual self not liking this individual self. And I think I'm, as you know, I'm very much for meditating. I'm very much for withdrawing yourself into solitude, away from others. The reason why I keep talking about that you need to be away from others when you meditate, and when you sit in silence, it is that as soon as you're with other people, they are so busy telling you who you are, and you are so busy accommodating in your perception of who you are, and that is interfering with what really is. So I'm very much for meditation. I'm very much for sitting in solitude and not doing anything, just being, just sitting. And whatever arises, you allow to arise because it's arising anyway. And you might have a feeling of boredom, and then realize that right now a feeling of boredom is arising. It's not you being bored. And a feeling of anger might arise, and then it's just an arising of anger. It's not you being angry. And doing that, where you sit and you reflect on what you experience is happening. I know I keep saying you. I hope you understand I'm only doing that for this conversation not to be ridiculous, because there is no individual you. But in the understanding of the self and the illusion of the being that we have in this biological being, we perceive it as there is a you. So I hope you understand and can get over that when I use the term you, because there is no you, there is no me. So and a tool that can help you with that. I just need to circle back a little bit. When I say you, I don't mean a you that you can identify with. There is experiences happening. There's nothing to identify with, because there's no you to identify. If you start to identify with it, then you go into the ego, and that identifying is dualistic. So it can either be identified as where you're contracting where you want things to be different, or where you're expanding, where you allow what is. I have made multiple videos where I talk about the ego versus the authentic, and that is in what we are experiencing chemically and neurochemically when we are in the biological being. Our psychology is kind of split into two, and the more you work with the non-identifying, the more you are in the authentic, and the more you are actually able to understand without having the feeling of losing anything, the more you're actually able to release the identifying and just being with what is. That's where the unconditional acceptance come in, and the unconditional loving kindness come in, that and compassion, where whatever arises in this experience is completely fine. You have no need for it to go away because you don't identify with it. So when we talk about non-duality, I also want to make clear that when I'm sitting and talking here now, clearly there is talking happening. And on your end, there might be understanding happening. It's not me talking to you. And because there's no me talking to you, I have no need for you to understand this. I have no need for you to like this video. I have no need for you to understand it or anything. I might experience happiness if you feel that you're coming closer to your being, and you find it easier for you to be authentic in your life, to allow other people to be in their lives in the way that they are, and you allow you to be in your life the way that you are. Obviously, I experience happiness arising when I read that, because I recognize that in myself, that there's an echo with your experience and my experience, and that kind of bring us in a very expanding, energy connection that we have. On the other hand, if you dislike it, or you're a troll, or you find this ridiculous or whatever, and you write that to me, I don't, because there's no me to take it personally. I don't really take it personally. I can empathize with you because I know that feeling of contractingness. I recognize that that feeling of separation, and I know that I recognize that feeling of feeling left out and not being part of, which is normally what is happening in trolls. That instead of connecting, they separate, and I recognize that feeling, so I have lots of empathy towards that. What I would like for you to do right now is kind of imagine a room. Imagine an empty room. In my mind, it's kind of like a white room. There's no colors or anything. It's just a big room, and there's one door, and you are the room. So the room, that is the void, that is the beingness that I'm talking about. That you are the room, you are the void, and within that void, within that room, everything is present. There's nothing in it, and by nothing being in it, everything is present, everything is there, because nothing is left out. As soon as something is there, other things are left out. So in the nothingness, everything is present. You are that room. And then a door opens and a feeling comes into the room. It might be a feeling of anger, let's say. That feeling of anger comes into the room. The feeling of anger does not change the room. It's just a feeling of anger being present in the room, and that feeling of anger will depart again. It will arise and it will cease. And that hasn't changed anything about the room. The room is still there. It's like a guest coming in through the door, and the guest is not changing anything about the room. Even if the guest starts to paint on the walls, it doesn't change the room, and doesn't change the void within the room, because there's now just a color on the wall. Doesn't change anything about the room whatsoever. And it's like that with you and feelings, that you can actually, and that's where you can do this in meditation, that you experience yourself as the room, you experience yourself as the void, and a feeling might arise. And then you allow that feeling to be there. You allow anger to arise, or you allow resentment to arise. And whatever is arising, it's just arising. You can observe it and be with it and have no need for it to disappear. And you don't need it to disappear, because it will disappear by itself again. Just like when you feel joy, you have no need to cling for it to stay there. It will disappear again. And I just want to say short, I'm going to make a video about that too. I'm going to say short about the clinging when we have some, because we tend to do that in our lives. In the biological being that we are, we're very much aware about impermanence, very much aware that things arise and things disappear. So when happiness arises in us, we want to hold on to that, cling to that, for it not to disappear, which is an illusion. It will disappear. Everything disappears and everything arises again. So when anger happens or resentment happens, you don't want that feeling, then we have a resistance towards it. And we don't want that to be there. That doesn't make it go away. It's still there. But in that resistance that we have towards it, we make an identification with it. So we identify with the feeling of anger arising and saying, I am angry. And then all of a sudden, we have a shift in us happening. And we go from being the authentic that has the unconditional acceptance of what is, into the ego that does not want anger to be present. I do not want to be angry. And that is when we're, what I usually talk about, in the maze, where we are completely overwhelmed by all the feeling that we feel, instead of being on the 5th floor as the observer and just observing what is happening, because it's not happening to you. So when you have the I am feeling sad, there's an identifying happening with the feeling of sadness. And then you start to build on top of that. Why am I feeling sad? How can I make this go away so I'm not feeling sad anymore? And that is actually what is creating the problems in our lives, is that we try to find solutions for something that is not even real. I feel so sad right now. How can I avoid feeling sad so I become happy again? Then all of a sudden we're identifying with the feeling of sadness and with the wanting of being happy. And that is the illusion. So the real question when you're asking somebody, I'm so confused about this non-duality. I do not understand how all this is. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. The answer is not, there's no you to be confused. That's not the answer. That's unfair and not very kind. What I would suggest is that okay, great. I mean, the feeling of confusion has arrived. Could you be with that feeling of confusion? Can you be in a body that is super, super confused right now without trying to change it, but just being the room, being the void where the feeling of confusion has arisen, it has arisen? Can you be that room? Can you be present with the feeling of confusion? No, I can't. I don't want to be confused anymore. That's completely fine. It's completely fine. Don't change it. Can you be with a resistance to the feeling of being confused? Can you accept that right now you are in a physical body and you don't want to have the feeling that is there? It's still there, but can you accept that you do not want what is right now? And that is actually easier. That is the unconditional acceptance to what is. So then you are the room, you are the void, and you have a feeling of confusion entering the door. You do not want it to enter the door, but you can accept that it has entered the door. At some point, you will feel that resistance to that is dissolving, which means that all of a sudden you can be the room. A feeling of confusion has entered the door, and you can be the room with the feeling of confusion present. At some point, that feeling of confusion will depart. It will cease to exist. And another feeling is coming into the door. It might be a feeling of relief. Now you understand it. So a feeling of relief comes in through the door. Can you be with that and not identify with that? Not going like, oh, I'm so happy. Now I finally understood it. Because then you're identifying with the feeling. You can't do that. You need to be aware of there's no you to identify with anything. As soon as you identify with a feeling that is present in you, then you make it into something that it's not. And that is what the illusion is. It's not that the feeling is arising, because a feeling of confusion is chemical. A feeling of release and relief is chemical. And it's beyond your control. You can't control your thoughts at all. So whatever thought is arising, whatever thought is disappearing, you can't decide for it to arise or disappear. It just happens. Yeah, I think that was what I wanted to say. I'm just going to check if anybody has any questions on YouTube right now. So first for dinner, so nice to see you. I'm really, really happy that you're here. Lovely. And you're just appreciative. Great. I'm really happy about that. So that was just these thoughts that I had right now when I was having a shower, just and I just wanted to talk about that, because I was just thinking it's so unfair that people are experiencing non-duality and getting confused and thinking that it's bad to be confused. It's not good either. It just is. And I really would like to come across with the message that whatever feeling arises and whatever feeling you experience, it's completely fine. Just don't identify with it. Don't make it into your feeling or your being. Don't be the monk that is sitting and meditating about the non-self and then thinking, "Oh, I'm so enlightened," and then the non-self is all of a sudden connected and identifying with the enlightenment. So yeah, so whatever feeling you have, it's not a dirty word, it's completely fine. Whatever feeling is present and arising, it's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with you at all. You are exactly like you're supposed to be. You don't have to change at all. There's nothing that needs to happen and nothing that you need to do. And also I want to emphasize that I am aware that there is no you. That's the whole point of this conversation, the whole point of this video, for you to understand that there is no individual you. There's no identifying with anything as an individual self, because that is not real. There's only emotions and feelings arising. Now I'm starting to go in circles here. But that was what I wanted to say. I hope that you're gonna have a very, very lovely day. And if you have any questions, anything you would like for me to talk about, then please write me in the comment on any of the videos. I'm checking all the videos, all the comments coming in, and I'm replying to everything. So that was it for me. Have a great day. Bye.